If you are like a con man, or if you're deceptive, or if you really want people to join at any cost. Something that cults do is the ends justify the means. So if you think that you're saving lives and that you have the only solution to alcoholism, then maybe you think it's okay to hide the fact that you are proselytizing for a cult religion. Welcome to the Sobriety Bestie podcast. My name is Kirsten. I am your hostess and your friend here today for this series on AA's cult religion DNA. In this first episode, we are going to be looking at and exploring, asking the question, why does AA lie about how it started? So buckle up. This is going to be a good one. I spent a lot of time researching this. I encourage you to do your own researching. Really, this is about your own critical thinking and your own self-trust. But I thought this would be a good thing to explore because sometimes when we could see how things started and what they were rooted in, we could see them a little more clearly. So let's do this. Ultimately, this is about your freedom. So clarity really helps breed that freedom. At least it did for me. And so when I explored AA's roots, it helped liberate me from some of the dogma that was still living in my head, or the ideology or the indoctrination. And that was 5 years ago. So I was in Alcoholics Anonymous for 10 years and I left Alcoholics Anonymous 5 years ago. That first year that I left AA, I deconstructed, deprogrammed from AA kind of hardcore. And now that 5 years later, I feel inspired to speak about leaving AA. I'm actually doing a lot more deconstructing work that I didn't even know was available for me because I'm researching to make these videos. So I am over here opening up more pockets of freedom along with you, hopefully, as you're following along on this deconstructing journey. And of course, I love to see all your comments and hear how it's going for you. And I love to get the DMs, so keep those coming. Let's have this be a conversation. So let's start off with the known, or the origin story of AA that I believed. And you might have been slightly different in what you were told or what you believed or how you interpreted the literature, or how your sponsor or your group or your fellowship interpreted the literature. For me, I believed, until quite recently actually, some of what I'm going to say in here I didn't even know until this past week. It's been a long week. Actually, it's been 2 weeks that I've been researching for this series. There's been a lot. There is a lot to cover. So I was told, I believed that Alcoholics Anonymous started in 1935. This is false information, which is so blatantly obvious to me now. But, I went to Founders Day a lot of times. On Founders Day is June 10th, 1935, which is supposedly Dr. Bob's sobriety date. Or it is Dr. Bob's sobriety date, but that's supposedly when AA was founded. It's Founders Day, but Founders Day is not when AA was founded. That's just when Dr. Bob got sober. So we know that Bill got sober in December 1934, and then he met up with Dr. Bob, and Dr. Bob got sober on June 10th. So about 6 months later, Dr. Bob got sober. That's been known, at least to me, in the circles I was in. Let me know if you believe that too, that June 10th, 1935 was the founding day of Alcoholics Anonymous. Every year, it is celebrated like a birthday, counting back to 1935. So when I went to the convention in Akron, Ohio with the sponsee for the big celebration, that was counting back to 1935. And I went to a lot of the annual conventions for Founders Day in Bali, also counted to 1935. I went to Founders Day in Sydney, Australia. Yeah, so it's kind of thought globally by most people, I would say, that AA started in 1935. That's mythology. In order to prepare for this series, I watched a lot of documentaries, read a lot of things. One of the documentaries, or one of the movies that I watched, is called My Name is Bill W. I had never seen that before. I will link it below. It is free to watch. I actually found it, side note, I found it quite difficult to watch because most of the movie is like Bill's drunkalogue, and I think if you've read the book, right, Bill's story, it's not interesting to watch his story, especially as someone who's been sober since 2009. I don't like watching someone just getting drunk over and over again, but it is what it is. I was hoping to see more and experience more of what I actually think is interesting, is about getting people sober, about sobriety and how they started everything up. They skipped through everything. So in the My Name is Bill W movie, which maybe you've heard of, or maybe you've even seen, let me know in the comments, some of what was omitted or not shown in the movie, which I understand you have to cut some stuff, but they cut stuff that was like crucial to telling the story of how AA, as I understand it, actually came to be. Ebby was indoctrinating Bill for over a year into the Oxford group. We know Ebby Thatcher was Bill's school friend or whatever, right? That's clear in the big book. This is not like a scandal. This is what we hear about. They sit across from the table. Ebby goes, I've got religion and I'm sober. But my understanding from what I've researched is Ebby was indoctrinating or proselytizing to Bill, trying to recruit Bill into the Oxford group for about a year. And on that fourth occasion that Bill actually went into Towns Hospital, I think the third occasion as well, Ebby actually helped him get into the Towns Hospital, where he actually ended up getting sober. While he was in the Towns Hospital, Ebby came and visited him, and what Ebby was doing while Bill was in the town hospital was indoctrinating him, was preaching, was coaching the Oxford group principles, was giving him religion. That's not in the My Name is Bill W movie at all. There is no scene where Ebby or any Oxford group members, and there were many that were in shifts going into the hospital, into Towns Hospital, to indoctrinate Bill into the ideology of the Oxford group, which is a cult religion. And so that's completely not in the movie. Not only that, then it's at the Mayflower Hotel scene, right, where he ends up on the phone with Dr. Bob. So then he goes to Dr. Bob's house. Dr. Bob gets sober. He stays in Akron with Dr. Bob for a couple of months. And then that goes directly from that scene where in 1935, the summer of 35, where Bill is at Dr. Bob's house helping him get sober in the beginning, they flash forward to a meeting where Bill is opening up the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, which was published in 1939. So they skip all of the beginning of AA, and so they just omit it. And so it's very convenient that everyone seems to be just omitting what actually happened, and we'll just pretend that it just started in 1935 and that's that, and Bill met Bob and then they just instantly had steps and a name and a program, and that's how it was. It's mythology, just like Santa Claus. So the movie misleads you. And then the other thing about the movie that was misleading, as far as I understand the history, is that Bill and Bob go to a hospital in Akron, Ohio, looking for a drunk to get into the cult religion, into the Oxford group with them, right? And so they go and they meet Bill in the hospital. Bill number 3, he's the third AA member. So they meet Bill in the hospital, and in the movie, this part was annoying, they have like, we're really excited. We found sobriety. We'll tell you what we did. If you're interested, no pressure. We'll come back tomorrow. And then Bill, the guy in the hospital, says, tell me it's not religion, though. I don't want religion. And they said, it's not religion. We'll see you tomorrow. I'm like, gaslight? Oops, that's so loud. Gaslight much? Brutal. It is religion. That's exactly what the solution is. The solution in Bill's mind to alcoholism is religion. So they're lying to AA number 3. That is called deceptive recruiting, and it's straight in the AA movie. Now, an AA lover might say, that's not the book, that's not the program, that's Hollywood. Okay, fine, fair enough. But that is the propaganda. That is the indoctrination of the public into what Alcoholics Anonymous is. So movies about AA, well, AA might not be totally responsible. But when I think about when my indoctrination to Alcoholics Anonymous process started, it was well before I got to AA. It was through media, through Hollywood, through what we see all the time displayed to us. Okay, so from 1935, when Dr. Bob got sober, through 1937, Bill and Bob were in the Oxford group. There was no Alcoholics Anonymous. It wasn't born from day one. They didn't have that name until years after Dr. Bob got sober. It was not Alcoholics Anonymous. It was not founded in 1935. It was in 1937 that Bill left the Oxford group. They had different names inside the Oxford group, like the Alcoholic Squadron was one of them. There was no 12 steps, there was no big book, there was no name, there was no program of Alcoholics Anonymous. It was not founded yet. Its roots were in the Oxford group cult religion. The DNA of Alcoholics Anonymous is a cult religion. Okay, so why is there a lie about how AA started? Or some people don't like the word lie. It seems like a lie to me. It's a cover up. It's a misleading, it's a misinformation, it's a fake news, however you want to call it. It is shiesty AF. So why would Bill or Alcoholics Anonymous be deceptive about how they actually started? Now, I wasn't there. I don't know. It's impossible to guess someone's motivations and intentions. But let's do a little look-see-loo about what was going on that may have been the reason why the origin story of Alcoholics Anonymous was covered up. So, number one reason that came to my mind is because the Oxford group is a cult religion, or it was a cult religion. The Oxford group was running until 1939, and then it just switched names. But when Bill and Bob were in the Oxford group, it was a cult religion. This shouldn't be controversial. Time magazine called it a cult religion at that time. This is not a judgment, it's a reality of what it was. It was a program an authoritarian cult designed to bring you into a full surrender with God. And so it was a cult religion. Now, if you say that it started for years as a cult religion, that might be a little off-putting to people who don't want to join a cult religion, like me, probably like you. Although, fair enough, when I got to AA, I knew it was a cult religion. That's what I thought. That was my opinion. And then AA indoctrinated me into, we're a spirituality, we're not a religion, we're not a cult, or we need brainwashing. So part of the indoctrination was, we're not a cult religion, basically. First rule of cult is we're not a cult, right? And second rule of the cult, interestingly enough, I heard someone say this, is that you're wrong. Rule number one, we're not a cult. Rule number two, you are wrong. You are wrong. Whatever it is, it's you. You're the problem. You're the fault. So maybe they didn't want to lead with the fact that they were a cult religion, and so that's why they were dishonest about it. Obviously, I don't know exactly how it went down. Maybe Bill was telling people when he was going to the hospitals that this is the Oxford group, we read the Bible, we do this, it's a surrender to God deal. Maybe he was saying some of that. I know that part of what wasn't working with him before he met Dr. Bob was that he was trying to just go hard on the God angle and nobody was getting sober. And so Dr. Silkworth gave him some advice to help him hook people in before you give them religion. So hiding the fact that it's a religion and hiding the fact that it's a cult religion would be smart in the recruiting process, right? If you are like a con man, or if you're deceptive, or if you really want people to join at any cost. Something that cults do is the ends justify the means. So if you think that you're saving lives and that you have the only solution to alcoholism, then maybe you think it's okay and ends justify the means to hide the fact that you are proselytizing for a cult religion. So that was my first thought, is that the Oxford group, which even the founder of the Oxford group said the Oxford group is not a new religion, it's religion anew. And he said this so that it could be open to anybody, any religion, anybody ever, that we just want to have an open door. So the Oxford group was clear that it was a religion, and Time magazine was clear that it was a religion, and Bill's like, no, or whoever, probably Bill and crew, the first 100, we know it really wasn't 100 at first, but the first 100 didn't want to point to Oxford group. So maybe that's the reason number one. Reason number two is a little more intense. The founder of the Oxford group, the leader of the group that Bill and Bob were proselytizing for, had associations with the Nazis. So in August 1935, Frank Buchman, who was the leader and founder of the Oxford group, was in Nuremberg at the Nazi party rallies literally saluting Hitler. Frank Buchman grew up in America, but he grew up speaking German because of where his parents' heritage. So he did speak German, and he went to Germany multiple occasions for Nazi rallies and events. There was controversy around Buchman in the day because in 1936, Frank Buchman told the New York World Telegram, "I thank heaven for a man like Adolf Hitler, who built a front line of defense against the Antichrist of communism." So that's a little bit sketchy. Now, I am not saying that Buchman was nefarious. I honestly, although he was a cult religion leader, it did sound like he wanted peace and he was obsessed with God. I don't think that he was aligned with the Nazis. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying why Bill might want to hide the actual cult religion origins, because there was an affiliation literally in August of 1935. Bill and Bob are together. Now Bob is June, July, August, 3 months sober. Bill's 9 months sober, and Dr. Bob's 3 months sober. They are proselytizing for Frank Buchman's group in Akron, Ohio, while Frank Buchman is in Nuremberg saluting Hitler. It's a little sus, so you might want to hide that. There's somebody named Heinrich Himmler. Now, please forgive me. I have been watching basically World War II and Nazi documentaries all past 2 weeks, to try to make sure that I understand the context of what was happening at the time, so I could really understand what the world was experiencing when AA was just beginning and when it was still in the Oxford group. So I'm not an expert on this at all. I am kind of new to this stuff, and so feel free to correct me in the comments. I am not saying this as if I know the truth here. I'm just presenting ideas of why they might have hidden the origins of AA. So Heinrich Himmler was fascinated by the Oxford group. He was from the Reich leader of the SS of the Nazi Party from 1929 until he died in 1945. He presided over a vast ideological and, yes, I am reading, so I say this correctly, and bureaucratic empire that defined him for many, both inside and outside the Third Reich, as the second most powerful man after Adolf Hitler in Germany during World War II. This is the man, Himmler, who was fascinated with the Oxford group, and he is the one who invited Frank Buchman, Dr. Bob and Bill's leader, to Nuremberg Nazi Party rallies and to the Berlin Olympics in 1936. As far as I can tell, Buchman had good intentions with this. Again, I wasn't there. It's hard to project someone's intentions. It looked like he wanted to convert Hitler into a Buchmanite or Buchmanism, like basically his cult religion. I think he thought that if he could get Hitler to be surrendered to God, things would be better. So I think that's the reason why he was going. Regardless, this might be a reason why Bill wouldn't want to share the true story of how AA actually, what the roots are, how it was actually started. So Buchman is going to these Nazi Party rallies, and Dr. Bob and Bill are still recruiting for Buchman's group, Oxford group, for a year and a half after that. Bill was still in the Oxford group for 18 months after that. What makes the most sense to me is that Bill really believed that radical religion was the cure to alcoholism, and that he was seeing results from himself through Buchman's cult religion, and so he was preaching or proselytizing to get people into Buchman's cult religion. Another reason why the cult religion DNA of AA might be hidden is because there was bad blood between Bill and Buchman. What I read was that Buchman felt betrayed by Bill because Bill essentially took one of his subgroups of alcoholics of the Oxford group and took it for his own, and then rebranded everything, relabeled terms, and created Alcoholics Anonymous. So he pinched it. He took it. And so from what I read, it looked like Buchman was angry and didn't speak to Bill for years because of that. Allegedly. I wasn't there. I can't know for sure what actually happened. My invitation is to do some research. Do a little look-see if you're interested. Another reason that's probably the first reason that most of us might think of, just because of human nature, right, is that maybe Bill wanted all the credit. Just maybe it's that simple. Maybe Bill just thought, this is my baby, like, F it. Like, I'm just going to claim it, that it was always mine and it was my idea. So maybe it was just straight up like self-centeredness, or pride or ego or something. And why does it matter to look at the roots of Alcoholics Anonymous anyways? I believe it helps in the deconstructing process to see that, okay, they've created this false moral authority that they've like figured out how to cure alcoholism through trial and error. Of course, they didn't pinch another cult religion. Bill figured something out, right? Through trial and error. That's kind of how I thought it was. It prevents questioning. If you think that Bill, through trial and error, figured something out versus they pinched a cult religion and rebranded it, the level of your own questioning when you think it's like natural and organic versus it was borrowed or rebranded, to me, my mind has a different opinion on what authority I even give that solution, of how I would think about it. So it's deceptive recruiting. So hiding the cult religion roots is part of what's known in cults as deceptive recruiting. It's not honest. So I don't know all the answers here. I was having a little look-see to say, like, why would they like hide all this? There wasn't even much mention of the Oxford group in the first edition. It wasn't even until the forward to the second edition of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous that they unpacked some of the role that Oxford group played in the beginning of the formation of Alcoholics Anonymous. That is enough out of me for today. What do you think? What do you know? Have you done research on this? Share your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think would be the reason or some of the possible reasons why Bill and crew might want to hide the origin of AA and why we're still hiding it like almost 100 years later, right? Why it's still like a bit of a cover-up of how it actually started when you honestly think about it. Obviously, they didn't have a name from day one or steps from day one or a program from day one, right? At some point that came to be. And so why do you think it's hidden? What makes sense to you? I would love to hear from you in the comments. Let's have this be a conversation. I don't know everything here, but I like to research it all because the more I dig through it all, the more I'm like, what the fuck was I actually in? I think a lot of people who are on the deconstructing journey are not posting comments. They're not sharing. They're staying anonymous. So I know that when you share your story, it's really helping them wake up too. So if you feel inspired to comment away. And I'll see you in the next video on this series, which is going to be about AA's hidden cult religion roots. We're going to go deeper and unpack it. So I'll see you in that video. All right. Have a good day. Bye.